NBA trade season, pre-NBA draft, and free agency has officially begun. One of the best times of year, one of the most busy times of player movement across the NBA. And we have seen the first trade today broken by Woj, the first Woj bomb, which sends Jonas Valanciunas and the number 17 and 51 picks in this year's draft to the New Orleans Pelicans for Steven Adams, Eric Bledsoe, 2021 picks number 10 and 14, as well as a 2022 first round pick via the Los Angeles Lakers, which is, of course, one of the picks that was acquired via the Brandon Ingram trade. And so, with that being said, this is a trade that has very serious and realistic implications very soon for both teams, with, of course, Memphis being able to move up in the draft, but New Orleans also being able to acquire some cap flexibility. Meanwhile, Memphis take on some salary to be able to move up in the draft, and also getting rid of JV, but bringing in Steven Adams to still replace him to keep a center, to bring in some less valued salaries, you could argue, in Steven Adams and most certainly in Eric Bledsoe. But of course, now Memphis are going to get that 10th overall pick, moving up from 17 and 40 up from 51, as well as an extra 2022 first. And so we're going to talk about the implications for each team and why each team decided to make this deal. From one standpoint, you can see why would New Orleans want to trade down in the draft, but then also they get to acquire JV, but they have to trade down and give up an additional first. But then you could argue, why do Memphis want to get rid of JV and take on the contracts of Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe, who both have 2 years left at, you would argue, more money than they deserve? So first off, we're going to talk about why do Memphis want to trade away JV as well as a 17th and 51 overall pick, trade up, and acquire an extra first round pick, and then alongside it, acquiring Adams and Bledsoe. And while if you're Memphis, as much as this team is improving and good, the window for winning in Memphis is not next season or the year after. The window for Memphis is much further down the line. They're not a team that is win now, and they're still building for the future. They're still very young. Jaw's only mentoring year 3. Jaren Jackson Jr. is still very young. Grayson Allen's only 25. Brandon Clark's 24. This is still a very young team. So building for the future is important for this team. And so when we look at it, they move up in the draft, which is a positive. You're trying to acquire better, more youthful talent to add to an already young roster, and just look to improve the young talent you have on this team moving forward to build the best contender you can. And also, Jonas Valanciunas is 29, turning 30, and is entering the last year of his contract, someone who would have entered unrestricted free agency. And so getting something back and using the asset to a positive makes sense for someone like Jonas Valanciunas, who doesn't necessarily fit the timeline of Memphis long term. He's, as I mentioned, going to be an unrestricted free agent, and so it makes sense that they want to try to get something back for him. Now, Steven Adams is on a bit more of an expensive deal, but not anything outrageous. He is going to be making 17 and 18 million the next 2 years, just a handful more than the likes of Jonas Valanciunas. Eric Bledsoe himself is going to be making 18 and 19.375 the next 2 seasons. And so Memphis do take on some considerable salary here, increasing their cap by a bit over 20 million for the next 2 years. That is what their committed pay is going to increase by. But they have the cap space to do it, and they're not overly concerned in their cap space for the next 2 years. John Morant doesn't have to get paid until after the next 2 years. Dylan Brooks doesn't have to get paid again until after the next 2 years. Jaren Jackson Jr. only has 1 more year left, but Brandon Clark still has 2 more. Desmond Bane still has 2 more. A lot of their core guys don't have to be extended yet, and Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe could be a lot more valuable via trade and a lot more tradable, and they could potentially get assets back for them in their last year of their contract as expiring contracts next season. And so this is a smart move from Memphis to take on these salaries, be able to acquire some better picks and an additional pick via the Lakers 2022 first round pick next year, and being able to still maintain their flexibility moving forward to be able to build this team out the way they want to while adding more pieces that fit the timeline of this team. Now for New Orleans, they give up some draft capital here. They move down to the draft and trade away one of those Lakers picks that they got via the trade with Anthony Davis. But of course, For New Orleans, there was some major salary implications here that are very important to what they want to do this offseason. New Orleans Pelicans are in a scenario where they are very much in pursuit of a point guard this summer, whether that is a re-signing of Lonzo Ball, or if the offer sheets are too high, they are highly interested in Kyle Lowry, amongst other point guards. Point guard is a position of need, especially now after Eric Bledsoe has been traded. A point guard is going to be the main focus for the New Orleans Pelicans summer. So removing the salaries or trading away the salaries of Adams and Bledsoe and bringing in JV gives them the flexibility from a salary cap standpoint to be able to bring in a point guard like Lonzo Ball, re-signing him, or like Kyle Lowry, and be able to upgrade that point guard spot. But another one of the big reasons why this trade was made is that JV fits a lot better alongside Zion than Steven Adams. And I've said multiple times in multiple videos this offseason that New Orleans need to start building around Zion. Zion is their guy. He's their best talent. He's their best player, their most valuable asset moving forward. He has to be who they build around, and currently the team was not built around him. Sure, you can question the fit between Zion and Brandon Ingram, but at the first point, your role players have to fit, because it's a lot easier to change your role players and add and change your role players than it is to add and change someone the caliber of Brandon Ingram. And so moving on from Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe from a salary standpoint, but also from a fit standpoint, alongside the likes of Zion is very important. Neither of them were very good floor spacers, especially Steven Adams. Eric Bledsoe's three-point shot is very questionable as well. Now you bring in someone who's in JV, who of course does like to sit in the paint, but is a very much improved paint scorer over Steven Adams, is a very good rim protector, which will help Zion down low and not have to be that main guy. He can be the interior defender, as Steven Adams was, but JV can space the floor for you. He is an underrated passer. Not that he's a great one, but he can play make for you a little bit. He can space the floor. He can hit some threes. And so it doesn't hurt, and it's not impossible to have JV sit on the perimeter, and teams actually have to respect that a little bit. Whereas if Steven Adams was on the perimeter, teams would just sit their ass in the paint because no one gives a damn about Steven Adams sitting on the three-point line. He isn't doing anything out there. Now, JV is not a perennial elite three-point shooter. He's not Miles Turner. He's not Brook Lopez in his prime. But he can hit the open ones enough that teams have to guard him. And that's all they need. They just need the spacing for Zion to do his thing, attack the rim, and be dominant in the paint. And that's why I think this is a great move by by New Orleans, pardon me. But I think it's a great move by both sides. It definitely makes sense from both. There's contractual reasons. There's timeline reasons. I think both sides get a positive out of this. New Orleans get the flexibility that they want and need moving forward from a contractual standpoint, and add a better fit at the center position for Zion. And Memphis get some more picks and assets that can better fit the timeline and get some value out of Jonas Valanciunas before his contract expires, while potentially adding some players that could get them more value next year as expirings in Steven Adams and Eric Bledsoe. And let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about this trade for Memphis and for New Orleans. And I will be continuing to keep you guys up to date on all of the NBA trades that drop throughout the next few days leading up to the draft, as they are surely to come. It is a great time. I'll be covering all the news, so be sure to subscribe if you want more updates and all of my thoughts on every move that happens throughout this NBA offseason. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys in the next one.